29 years after a skilled craftsman vanished without a trace, the imposing shadow of Blackwood Manor still loomed, a relic of forgotten secrets and whispered legends. Daniel Hayes, a pragmatic architect in his early 30s, arrived with a mixture of inherited obligation and a profound sense of skepticism. He had barely known the estranged relative who bequeathed him this isolated, decaying monolith, seeing it less as a legacy and more as an immense, crumbling burden. The air around the property hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and neglect, a palpable weight that pressed down on him from the moment his tires crunched onto the overgrown gravel drive. He surveyed the vast expanse of the estate, its once manicured gardens now a wild tangle, but his gaze was drawn inexorably to the colossal iron gate, rusted crimson against the muted stone, a silent sentinel guarding decades of untold stories. Its intricate scrollwork, once a testament to masterful artistry, now seemed to twist in silent agony, hinting at a past far darker than any financial ledger could reveal. The gate itself was a masterpiece of wrought iron, a swirling symphony of forged metal that spoke of immense talent and countless hours of meticulous labor. It was clear that its creator had poured his very soul into every curve, every leaf, every spiked finial. But time, that relentless sculptor, had etched its own story onto the iron, coating it in a thick, unyielding layer of rust that bled onto the surrounding stone, a weeping stain of decay. Daniel, with his architect's eye, recognized the sheer scale of the undertaking, the sheer force of will required to shape such a stubborn material into something so elegant, yet formidable. This was not merely a barrier. It was a statement, a declaration of intent, a boundary between worlds. And as he ran his gloved hand over its cold, pitted surface, he felt an inexplicable chill, as if the iron itself held a memory, a silent scream trapped within its metallic heart. Restoring the gate became Daniel's immediate, almost obsessive first task. It was a tangible project amidst the overwhelming abstractness of his inheritance, a way to ground himself in the physical reality of the manor rather than succumb to the unsettling whispers of its history. He spent days methodically chipping away at the layers of rust, the metallic tang of oxidized iron filling the autumn air. Each scrape of his wire brush, each clang of his small hammer against the stubborn metal, was a rhythm of rediscovery, slowly revealing the underlying strength and beauty of the blacksmith's original work. He imagined the hands that had crafted this, the powerful blows, the searing heat of the forge, the sheer dedication. This was more than just metalwork. It was a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, a silent dialogue across decades between two men who had never met. It was during one such afternoon deep into the restoration that Daniel noticed it. A subtle irregularity, barely perceptible to the untrained eye, in one of the gate's thickest vertical bars. Unlike the smooth, consistent curve of its counterparts, this particular section seemed to possess a faint, almost imperceptible seam, a hairline fracture in the otherwise flawless craftsmanship. And the oar's flawless craftsmanship. He tapped it with a small rubber mallet he used for delicate work. The sound was distinct, a dull, resonant thud rather than the sharp, solid ring of solid iron. His architectural training, honed by years of scrutinizing structural integrity, screamed at him that something was amiss. This wasn't merely a flaw, it was an intentional deviation, a deliberate act of concealment within the very fabric of the gate itself, a secret waiting to be uncovered. Curiosity, a potent and often dangerous force, seized Daniel. He paused his meticulous cleaning, his gaze fixed on the anomaly. The seam was almost perfectly disguised by the intricate scrollwork and years of accumulated grime, a testament to the original craftsman's skill in hiding his intentions. He ran his fingers along the faint line, feeling the barely there ridge. This bar, thicker and more robust than the others, felt disproportionately light when he pushed against it, a hollow echo betraying its deceptive appearance. The realization dawned on him. This wasn't solid iron. This was a cavity, a hidden space concealed within the heart of the gate itself. What could possibly be important enough to warrant such elaborate secrecy embedded within the very first line of defense of this mysterious manor? With renewed determination, Daniel began to carefully probe the seam with a thin, flexible utility knife, his breath held in anticipation. The rust, a stubborn guardian of secrets, initially resisted his efforts, flaking away in brittle crimson shards. He worked slowly, meticulously, conscious of not damaging whatever lay beneath. The metal groaned faintly, a low, protesting whisper, as the years of corrosion reluctantly gave way. Finally, with a soft click that echoed disproportionately loud in the quiet afternoon, a small section of the bar, no larger than his hand, pivoted inward on a well-oiled, though now rusted, hinge. The hidden compartment was revealed, a dark, narrow alcove within the iron, perfectly designed to conceal its contents from prying eyes, a silent testament to the blacksmith's foresight. Inside the cramped, dark recess, nestled securely against the iron, lay a single object. It was a forging hammer, surprisingly well preserved, its wooden handle smooth and dark, its metallic head gleaming faintly despite the surrounding rust. This wasn't just any hammer. It was clearly a master's tool, balanced and refined, bearing the unmistakable marks of personalization. The sheer weight of it, the feeling of its cold, smooth handle against his palm, immediately conveyed a sense of history, a direct connection to the hands that had once wielded it with power and precision. It was a stark, tangible link to the past, an unexpected artifact from a life long gone, hidden away within the very structure it helped create, waiting patiently for nearly 3 decades to be found. As Daniel turned the hammer over in his hands, his fingers brushed against a series of intricate etchings on the handle. It was an inscription, carefully carved into the dark wood, faded but still legible. "They watch." Below this chilling warning, a single, stylized initial, a bold J, was intertwined with a symbol resembling a blacksmith's anvil. But the discoveries didn't end there. Tucked securely within a cleverly designed, almost invisible hollow in the hammer's grip, a tiny, rusted key gleamed faintly, barely larger than his thumbnail. It was an old-fashioned key, intricate and delicate, hinting at another lock, another secret, another layer to this deepening enigma. The hammer, the inscription, the key, each piece a fragment of a larger, untold story. The architect's logical mind tried to process it, but his historian's heart was already racing. This was no ordinary find. This was a message, a desperate plea from the past, left by a man who had vanished without a trace in 1983, João John Silva, the very blacksmith who had forged this magnificent, yet now ominous gate. The hammer, his personal tool hidden within his own creation, was a deliberate act, a silent testament to something he had witnessed, something he feared. Daniel looked up from the hammer, his gaze sweeping across the ancient mansion, suddenly seeing it not as a financial burden, but as a silent, imposing witness to a decades-old crime. The truth about João Silva's disappearance, buried for 29 years, was now calling to him, whispering from the rusted iron. The cold, aged metal of the hammer felt impossibly heavy in Daniel's grasp, a tangible link across nearly 3 decades to a man he had never known, but whose silent plea now echoed in the quiet afternoon. The words, "They watch," weren't just an inscription. They were a chilling whisper in his ear, a direct message from the grave, igniting a primal fear in the pit of his stomach. His architectural mind, usually so adept at dissecting structures and calculating stresses, struggled to reconcile the stark reality of the object with the serene, almost picturesque setting of the manor. This wasn't a relic. It was a warning, buried with meticulous care, designed to be found when the time was right, a desperate attempt by a vanished soul to communicate. The air grew perceptibly colder around him, or perhaps it was just the icy tendrils of burgeoning dread coiling around his heart. He traced the faded J and the anvil symbol with a trembling thumb, a deep sense of injustice washing over him. João Silva, the skilled craftsman, had poured his artistry into this gate, only to seemingly vanish into thin air, leaving behind this cryptic message. The sheer audacity of hiding such an object within his own magnum opus spoke volumes about the desperation and fear he must have felt. Daniel's initial skepticism, his pragmatic view of the manor as merely a financial transaction, evaporated, replaced by a profound sense of disquiet and a burgeoning, almost irrational, compulsion to understand. The hammer, once a symbol of creation, now pulsed with the dark energy of an unsolved mystery, its weight a physical manifestation of the burden of truth. Then, his fingers brushed against the tiny, rusted key, cunningly nestled within the hammer's grip, barely discernible against the dark wood. It was an antique, intricate and delicate, hinting at another lock, another secret, another layer to this deepening enigma. This wasn't just a random act of concealment. It was a carefully orchestrated sequence of clues, a breadcrumb trail left by a man who knew he might not return. The key was a silent promise, a coded instruction from the past, confirming that the hammer was not the end of the mystery, but merely the beginning. Daniel's breath hitched, a sudden surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins, the implications of such meticulous planning sending a shiver down his spine, a silent acknowledgement of the danger that must have surrounded Joao. The weight of the hammer in his palm shifted from mere physical burden to an immense moral one. It felt less like an inheritance and more like a sacred trust, a desperate plea from a man whose voice had been silenced for 29 years. Daniel, a man accustomed to the concrete logic of blueprints and structural integrity, found himself grappling with the abstract, unsettling reality of a life cut short, a story left untold. The blacksmith, Joao Silva, was no longer just a name in old records. He was a presence, a specter haunting the very tool he once wielded, demanding to be heard. The cold afternoon air suddenly felt charged, pregnant with the unspoken words of a man who had left a message in the very fabric of his final creation. Blackwood Manor, once a decaying inheritance, now transformed into a silent, imposing witness to a decades-old crime. Daniel's perception of the colossal iron gate, which he had spent days meticulously restoring, shifted dramatically. It was no longer just a beautiful, albeit neglected, piece of craftsmanship. It was a tombstone, a monument to a vanished life, a repository of dark secrets. Every scroll, every curve, every spiked finial now seemed to whisper tales of fear and betrayal, the rust bleeding onto the stone like an eternal stain of guilt. The sheer scale of the estate, its wild, overgrown gardens, its shadowed windows, all conspired to create an atmosphere of profound unease, a stage set for a tragedy that had unfolded long ago. A battle raged within Daniel, the pragmatic architect, who saw only the immense cost and logistical nightmares of restoration, against the burgeoning historian, whose soul was ignited by the raw, undeniable pull of an unsolved mystery. His logical mind screamed for him to dismiss it, to call the police, to hand over the strange artifacts and walk away. But the human part of him, the part that felt the chilling weight of the hammer and the silent desperation of the inscription, refused to let go. There was an unspoken pact forming, a moral obligation to the long-lost blacksmith whose final act was to leave this desperate message, a man whose life had been violently interrupted within these very grounds, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions. The inscription, "They Watch," resonated deeply, planting a seed of paranoia in Daniel's mind. He instinctively scanned the tree line, the distant road, the darkened windows of the manor itself, a prickling sensation on the back of his neck. Was someone still watching? Was the threat from 1983 still active, still lurking in the shadows of Blackwood Manor? The isolation of the estate, once a peaceful reprieve, now felt like a suffocating cage, the silence amplifying every rustle of leaves, every creak of the old house. The beautiful autumn afternoon had turned ominous, the golden light of the setting sun casting long, unsettling shadows that seemed to writhe and shift, concealing unseen eyes, turning his solitary pursuit into a dangerous game. The promise was implicit, yet overwhelmingly clear. The truth about João Silva's fate, buried for 29 years beneath layers of rust and local legend, was now calling to him, demanding to be unearthed. This was not just a cold case. It was a living, breathing enigma, its pulse quickening with every beat of Daniel's racing heart. The hammer, the inscription, the key, each piece a fragment of a larger, untold story that was now his to unravel. The architect, who had arrived seeking a new project, now found himself entangled in a narrative far grander and infinitely more perilous than any blueprint could ever detail. A narrative that promised to reveal the dark heart of Blackwood Manor. Physically, the impact was visceral. His hands, usually steady and precise, trembled slightly as he clutched the hammer. A cold sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the crisp autumn air. His breath came in shallow gasps, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Every nerve ending felt hyper-aware, sensitive to the slightest sound, the faintest shift in the wind. The metallic tang of rust in the air now seemed to carry a faint, almost imperceptible scent of decay, a ghostly echo of the past. His vision sharpened, scrutinizing every shadow, every detail of the gate he had thought he knew so well, now seeing it through the terrified eyes of its creator. He stood there for what felt like an eternity, the hammer still clutched tightly, a silent dialogue unfolding between him and the vanished blacksmith. He turned the hammer over and over, examining the etchings, the subtle weight, the almost imperceptible balance of a master's tool. It was a moment of profound solitude, yet he felt utterly connected to João, a thread spun across decades, linking their fates. The sun dipped lower, casting long, distorted shadows across the overgrown drive, painting the rusted gate in hues of blood and twilight, intensifying the chilling atmosphere that now permeated the entire estate. He was alone, yet profoundly not alone. Then, a quiet resolve solidified within him. He wouldn't turn away. He couldn't. The weight of the hammer, the chilling warning, the tiny, rusted key. They were a testament to a life that deserved justice, a truth that demanded to be heard. Daniel Hayes, the pragmatic architect, was gone, replaced by an amateur detective, driven by a blend of intellectual curiosity and a growing moral obligation. He would uncover what João Silva knew, what he feared, and who they were. The restoration of Blackwood Manor had just taken a dramatically different and far more dangerous turn. But this was only the beginning of what was to come. What would you do in a situation like this? Do you think you would have the courage to face the unknown dangers lurking in the shadows of such a mysterious past? Tell us in the comments below where you're watching from. If you're as intrigued as Daniel, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single step of this incredible investigation. Daniel Hayes, an architect by trade, had always approached life with a blueprint in hand, a pragmatic view of structures and systems, seeing the world as a series of solvable problems. His inheritance of Blackwood Manor, however, presented a stark deviation from his ordered existence, a decaying monolith bequeathed by an estranged relative he barely knew, less a legacy and more an immense crumbling burden. He arrived in 2012, 29 years after the blacksmith's disappearance, with a profound sense of skepticism, viewing the estate as a vast financial drain and a logistical nightmare, its overgrown gardens and shadowed windows hinting only at neglect, not secrets. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and forgotten time, a palpable weight that pressed down, demanding attention, but not yet revealing its sinister undercurrents, merely its immense need for costly restoration. His initial goal was clear: to assess, to liquidate, to shed this unwanted, mysterious weight as quickly as possible, utterly unprepared for the silent, desperate plea awaiting him. Before his abrupt vanishing in 1983, João John Silva was a cornerstone of the local community, a master blacksmith whose hands could coax beauty from the most stubborn of metals. He was a quiet, respected man, known for his meticulous craftsmanship, his unwavering dedication to his forge, and a gentle demeanor that belied the immense strength required for his trade. Locals spoke of his work with reverence, particularly the intricate, formidable gate he had poured his soul into for Blackwood Manor, a true magnum opus that stood as a testament to his artistry, visible even from the distant road. His life was one of honest labor, simple pleasures, and deep community roots, making his sudden, unexplained disappearance all the more shocking, leaving behind a void filled only by whispers and unanswered questions, a stark contrast to his consistent, predictable routine. No one could fathom why such a man would simply vanish without a trace, leaving his tools, his home, and his life behind, leaving behind only the chilling silence. Blackwood Manor itself had always been shrouded in an aura of mystery, a formidable estate that stood apart from the unassuming rhythm of the surrounding town, its imposing silhouette a permanent fixture against the horizon. For generations, whispers circulated about the Blackwood family, the mansion's previous owners, painting them as reclusive, eccentric, and powerful, their wealth seemingly boundless and their activities veiled in secrecy, rarely interacting with the local populace. Locals spoke in hushed tones of strange comings and goings, of late-night deliveries, and an unsettling quiet that permeated the property, hinting at something far more sinister than mere privacy. It was a place where stories of illicit activities, perhaps even darker deeds, took root and flourished, passed down through the years, cementing the manor's reputation as a place best avoided, a silent, imposing witness to unknown transgressions that lingered in the very stones of its ancient walls, waiting to be rediscovered. The year 1983 marked a seismic shift in the quiet rhythm of the community when João Silva, the beloved blacksmith, simply vanished, leaving an indelible scar on the town's collective memory. The initial shock quickly gave way to confusion, then a simmering frustration, as the official investigation floundered, eventually growing cold despite the community's outcry. People spoke of a palpable sense of injustice, of a talented man inexplicably erased, and the local police force's inability, or perhaps unwillingness, to uncover the truth. There were hushed conversations about the powerful figures associated with Blackwood Manor, and the unsettling implication that perhaps some forces were too influential to be questioned, too deeply entrenched to be challenged. João's disappearance became a cautionary tale, a dark legend woven into the fabric of the town, a constant reminder of unspoken dangers lurking beneath the surface of their seemingly peaceful lives, a wound that never truly healed, only scabbed over with time. Dr. Ilara Vance, a sharp and meticulous investigative journalist and local historian, had long been fascinated by the unsolved mysteries that peppered the region's past, though her approach was always grounded in verifiable facts and rigorous research. She possessed an astute mind, a keen eye for detail, and a relentless drive to uncover the truth, even when faced with official resistance or local apathy. Initially, she harbored a healthy skepticism towards any new theories regarding cold cases, especially those steeped in local legend, but her professional curiosity was easily piqued by genuine evidence. Her extensive network of contacts, deep understanding of historical contexts, and methodical investigative techniques made her an invaluable potential ally, a voice of reason and caution, yet equally driven by the pursuit of justice, particularly for the voiceless victims of the past. She was a formidable force, ready to dissect narratives and expose falsehoods, seeking the objective truth behind every whispered rumor. Old Man Mateo, a venerable figure in the community, had been a blacksmith himself, a contemporary and friend of João Silva, and carried within him a vast repository of local gossip, legends, and genuine affection for the vanished craftsman. His eyes, though clouded by age, held the light of countless memories, and his stories, often delivered with a cryptic flourish, offered invaluable anecdotal evidence and a deeply human perspective on João's character. Mateo remembered João's quiet pride in his work, his steady hands, and the subtle changes he observed in his friend's demeanor leading up to 1983, a growing unease that he couldn't quite articulate at the time. He was a living bridge to the past, a repository of the town's collective memory, a keeper of secrets and half-truths, whose cryptic hints about Blackwood Manor and the powerful figures associated with it would prove crucial, offering glimpses into a world that official records deliberately obscured, a voice from a bygone era. Operating largely unseen, yet profoundly influential, was the Shadow Collective, a powerful, secretive network whose tendrils had long been woven into the very fabric of the region, their interests protected by layers of wealth and subtle coercion. Elias Thorne, a figure of polished respectability and undeniable charisma, served as the current, public face of this clandestine organization, his dealings always above reproach on the surface, but his true motives shrouded in impenetrable secrecy. This collective, whether an old money family with deep, corrupt ties, or a more insidious, clandestine organization, had previously owned or held significant sway over Blackwood Manor, using its isolation as a cover for illicit activities that, according to hushed rumors, ranged from smuggling to political manipulation, or even more disturbing experimental research. Their primary objective remained the ruthless preservation of their secrets, eliminating any threats with cold, calculating efficiency, a silent, pervasive power that still cast a long shadow over the entire region, watching, waiting, ensuring silence. Detective Isabella Rossi, a woman hardened by years on the force, carried the quiet weariness of someone who had seen too much, yet still clung to a deep-seated dedication to justice. While generally dismissive of cold case theories brought forth by enthusiastic amateurs, her professional integrity meant that genuine, concrete evidence could not be ignored, even if it meant confronting uncomfortable truths within her own institution. The original 1983 investigation into João Silva's disappearance had been marred by inconsistencies, a hurried conclusion, and the quiet suppression of evidence, suggesting a local layer of corruption or coercion that had effectively buried the truth. Rossi, though initially hesitant, represented the faint hope of institutional access and resources, a potential ally who could navigate the labyrinthine bureaucracy of law enforcement, but only once presented with irrefutable proof, ready to quietly re-examine the ghosts of past failures and confront a difficult legacy, challenging the very foundations of trust. João John Silva, the disappeared blacksmith, was a man whose life was etched in the precise, predictable rhythm of steel and fire, a cornerstone of the local community whose hands could coax magnificent beauty from the most stubborn of metals. Before 1983, his days unfolded with an almost serene predictability, marked by the clang of his hammer against the anvil and the quiet pride he took in his meticulous craftsmanship, particularly the elaborate gate he had forged for Blackwood Manor, a true magnum opus that stood as a testament to his artistry. He was known for his unwavering dedication, his gentle demeanor, and his deep roots within the town, making his sudden, unexplained vanishing an even more jarring rupture in the fabric of their peaceful existence. The contrast between his consistent, honest labor and his abrupt erasure left a profound void, filled only by the unsettling whispers of a mystery too deep to comprehend, a life inexplicably cut short, leaving behind only the chilling silence of unanswered questions, a ghost haunting the very air. Blackwood Manor itself had always existed on the periphery of local consciousness, a formidable estate shrouded in an aura of deep mystery that set it apart from the unassuming rhythm of the surrounding town. Its imposing silhouette a permanent, ominous fixture against the horizon. Generations of locals spoke in hushed tones of the, quote, Blackwood family, the mansion's previous owners, painting them as reclusive, eccentric, and possessing an almost boundless wealth, their activities veiled in impenetrable secrecy. Whispers circulated through the decades about strange comings and goings, late-night deliveries, and an unsettling quiet that permeated the sprawling property, hinting at something far more sinister than mere privacy. It was a place where stories of illicit activities, from smuggling to darker, more unspeakable deeds, took root and flourished, passed down through the years, cementing the manor's reputation as a forbidden zone, a silent, imposing witness to unknown transgressions that lingered within the very stones of its ancient, decaying walls, waiting to be rediscovered by an unwitting heir. The year 1983 marked a seismic, unsettling shift in the quiet rhythm of the community, when João Silva, the beloved blacksmith, simply vanished without a trace, leaving an indelible scar on the town's collective memory that time had failed to heal. The initial shock quickly gave way to a simmering confusion, then a profound frustration, as the official investigation floundered, eventually growing cold despite the community's outcry and fervent desire for answers. People spoke of a palpable sense of injustice, of a talented, honest man inexplicably erased from existence, and the local police force's apparent inability, or perhaps a more disturbing unwillingness, to uncover the truth. There were hushed conversations about the powerful figures associated with Blackwood Manor and the unsettling implication that perhaps some forces were too influential to be questioned, too deeply entrenched in the local power structure to be challenged, effectively burying the truth beneath layers of silence and fear, leaving a raw, open wound. Old man Mateo, a venerable figure whose very presence seemed to embody the town's history, had been a blacksmith himself, a contemporary and cherished friend of João Silva, and within him resided a vast, intricate repository of local gossip, fading legends, and a genuine, unwavering affection for the vanished craftsman. His eyes, though clouded by the passage of time, held the flickering light of countless memories, and his stories, often delivered with a cryptic flourish, offered invaluable anecdotal evidence and a deeply human perspective on João's quiet, honorable character. Mateo vividly recalled João's quiet pride in his work, the steady strength of his hands, and, more disturbingly, the subtle changes he had observed in his friend's demeanor leading up to 1983, a growing unease he couldn't quite articulate at the time. He was a living bridge to the past, a keeper of secrets and half-truths, whose fragmented hints about Blackwood Manor and its powerful figures would prove crucial, a voice from a bygone era speaking truths others dared not utter. Dr. Ilara Vance, a sharp and meticulously precise investigative journalist and local historian, had long harbored a profound fascination with the unsolved mysteries that peppered the region's complex past, though her approach was always rigorously grounded in verifiable facts and relentless research. She possessed an astute mind, a keen, almost surgical eye for detail, and a relentless, unyielding drive to uncover the truth, even when faced with official resistance or the pervasive apathy of a community resigned to its secrets. Initially, she maintained a healthy skepticism towards any new theories regarding cold cases, especially those steeped in local legend and superstition, but her professional curiosity was easily piqued by genuine, tangible evidence. Her extensive network of contacts, deep understanding of intricate historical contexts, and methodical investigative techniques made her an invaluable potential ally for Daniel, a voice of reason and caution, yet equally driven by the pursuit of justice, particularly for the voiceless victims of the past, ready to dissect narratives and expose falsehoods. Detective Isabella Rossi, a woman whose years on the force had etched a quiet weariness onto her features, carried the burden of someone who had witnessed too much of humanity's darker side, yet still clung to an unwavering dedication to justice. While generally dismissive of cold case theories brought forth by enthusiastic amateurs, her professional integrity was an unshakable core, meaning concrete evidence could not be ignored. This was true even if it meant confronting uncomfortable truths within her own institution. The original 1983 investigation into João Silva's disappearance, she knew, had been marred by inconsistencies, a hurried conclusion, and the quiet suppression of crucial evidence, subtly suggesting a local layer of corruption or coercion. Rossi, though initially hesitant, represented the faint hope of institutional access and vital resources, a potential ally who could navigate the labyrinthine bureaucracy of law enforcement, but only once presented with irrefutable proof, ready to quietly re-examine the ghosts of past failures and challenge a difficult legacy. Operating largely unseen, yet profoundly influential, was the Shadow Collective, a powerful, secretive network whose tendrils had long been woven into the very fabric of the region. their vast interests meticulously protected by layers of immense wealth and subtle, pervasive coercion. Elias Thorne, a figure of polished respectability and undeniable charisma, served as the current public face of this clandestine organization, his dealings always appearing above reproach, but his true motives shrouded in impenetrable secrecy, a master of deception. This collective had previously owned or held significant sway over Blackwood Manor, using its isolation as a perfect cover for a myriad of illicit activities. These, according to hushed rumors, ranged from high-level smuggling and political manipulation to even more disturbing experimental research or ancient cult rituals, their primary objective remaining the ruthless preservation of their secrets, eliminating any threats with cold, calculating efficiency, a silent, pervasive power that still cast a long, chilling shadow over the entire region, watching, waiting, ensuring absolute silence. Before Daniel Hayes had even set foot on its neglected grounds, Blackwood Manor was a nexus of forgotten power and buried secrets, a place where a skilled craftsman's life had been violently interrupted, not by accident, but by design. João Silva's disappearance in 1983 was not an isolated incident. It was a consequence, a brutal punctuation mark in a larger, darker narrative, orchestrated by the Shadow Collective and facilitated by local corrupt elements. The quiet town, on its surface so idyllic, harbored a deep-seated fear of these unseen forces, a fear that had silenced voices and buried truths for nearly 3 decades. Daniel, arriving with his pragmatic blueprints and a desire for simple renovation, was unknowingly stepping onto a stage where a dangerous, decades-old play was still unfolding, where the line between past and present blurred, and where the act of uncovering a forgotten hammer could ignite a powder keg of conspiracy, putting him directly in the crosshairs of an entity willing to kill to protect its dark legacy. The weight of the hammer in Daniel's hand was no longer just metal. It was a conduit to a vanished life, a chilling whisper from 1983. The cryptic inscription, "They watch," burned into his mind, painting the serene autumn afternoon with a fresh layer of dread. He felt a profound sense of violation, as if he had stumbled upon a conversation not meant for his ears, a secret so potent it had cost a man his very existence. His architectural training, usually grounded in logic and structural integrity, faltered under the emotional onslaught. This wasn't a relic to be catalogued. It was a desperate cry, a final, defiant act of communication from João Silva, the blacksmith whose hands had shaped this very gate. The isolated manor, once merely a financial burden, now pulsed with a sinister energy, its ancient stones holding untold stories, demanding to be heard, beckoning him deeper into its dark embrace. A silent witness to a decades-old tragedy. The forging hammer itself was a testament to master craftsmanship, its balance perfect, its steel head still gleaming despite decades of concealment. Daniel's fingers traced the faded but unmistakable J, intertwined with the anvil symbol, a personal signature confirming its owner as João Silva, the vanished blacksmith. The meticulous etching of "They Watch" spoke not of casual graffiti, but of deliberate, urgent intent, a message painstakingly carved by a man who knew his time was running out. This was a tool of creation, repurposed as a vessel for a warning, hidden within his own magnificent iron gate, the very structure he had poured his soul into. The sheer audacity of its placement, concealed within the thickest bar, suggested a profound level of fear, a desperate attempt to ensure that, one day, the truth would find its way out, a silent testament to a life violently interrupted. Nestled within a cleverly designed, almost invisible hollow in the hammer's grip, the tiny, rusted key gleamed faintly, barely larger than Daniel's thumbnail. It was an old-fashioned key, intricate and delicate, hinting at another lock, another secret, another layer to this deepening enigma. The meticulousness of its concealment within the hammer, itself hidden within the gate, spoke volumes about the blacksmith's foresight and the extreme danger he must have perceived. This wasn't a random act. It was a carefully orchestrated sequence of clues, a breadcrumb trail left by a man who knew he might not return, a coded instruction from the past. The key was a silent promise, confirming that the hammer was not the end of the mystery but merely the beginning of a perilous journey into the unknown, a silent testament to Joe's desperate hope for discovery. A cold dread settled in Daniel's stomach, replacing his initial architectural detachment with a burgeoning sense of urgency. This was no mere curiosity. This was a plea from a man silenced for 29 years, a testament to an injustice that demanded resolution. He couldn't dismiss it, not after feeling the weight of the hammer, reading the chilling inscription, and holding the tiny, enigmatic key. His solitary restoration project had transformed into an involuntary, dangerous quest for truth. The sheer scope of the mystery, deeply rooted in the manor's dark past, was too vast for him to tackle alone. He needed someone with expertise in uncovering buried histories, someone who understood the intricate dance between local legends and verifiable facts, someone who could help piece together the fragments of João Silva's desperate message. His thoughts turned to Dr. Ilara Vance, a name he'd seen in local historical society articles. Dr. Ilara Vance, a sharp and meticulously precise investigative journalist and local historian, initially met Daniel's frantic call with a polite, yet discernible, skepticism. She had heard countless local legends, seen numerous cold case theories, and her professional integrity demanded verifiable facts. Daniel, however, presented not just a theory but tangible evidence: the hammer, the inscription, the hidden key. As he recounted the details, showing her the artifacts, her professional curiosity, usually guarded, was undeniably piqued. Her astute mind, honed by years of rigorous research and a keen eye for detail, recognized the unusual nature of the find. This wasn't merely a quaint historical artifact, it was a deliberate, coded message, placed with an urgency that transcended time, hinting at a truth far more profound than any local folklore could explain, drawing her into the unfolding enigma. Together, Daniel and Ilara delved into the official records surrounding João Silva's disappearance in 1983, quickly unearthing a series of alarming inconsistencies. The police report, a terse document from nearly 3 decades prior, painted a picture of a man who simply vanished, citing no foul play and closing the case with unsettling haste. There were no witnesses, no leads, just a chilling void. Ilara's journalistic instincts bristled at the lacunas, the abruptness of the conclusion, and the distinct lack of follow-up. It felt less like an investigation and more like a deliberate act of erasure, a convenient narrative hastily constructed to bury an inconvenient truth. The very absence of information, the quiet suppression of a life, screamed louder than any direct accusation, hinting at powerful forces at play, working in the shadows to ensure perpetual silence. Their research into official channels proved frustratingly sterile, yielding only a whitewashed version of events. It became clear that the real story, the human story, lay buried deeper, perhaps in the collective memory of the community. Local whispers and fragmented newspaper clippings repeatedly mentioned Old Man Mateo, a retired blacksmith, a contemporary and cherished friend of João Silva, often cited as a repository of local gossip and legends. Daniel and Ilara understood that factual data alone wouldn't crack this case. They needed a human connection, someone who could provide anecdotal evidence, paint a picture of João's character, and perhaps offer crucial, cryptic hints about Blackwood Manor's dark reputation. Mateo represented a living bridge to the past, a potential key to unlocking the emotional truth behind the cold, hard facts, a voice from a bygone era that might finally speak volumes. Old Man Mateo, his eyes clouded by age but still sharp with memory, greeted them with a wary hospitality in his cluttered, forge-scented workshop. He was a venerable figure, his hands gnarled by years of working with metal, his voice a gravelly whisper of forgotten times. Daniel and Ilara carefully presented the hammer, watching as a wave of profound sorrow, mixed with a flash of recognition, crossed Mateo's face. He spoke of João with deep affection, recalling his quiet pride, his meticulous work, and, more disturbingly, the subtle, growing unease he'd observed in his friend leading up to 1983. Mateo's words were often cryptic, laced with local lore, but he hinted at powerful people connected to Blackwood Manor and João's seeing things he shouldn't have. His stories, though fragmented, confirmed their gravest suspicions. João hadn't simply vanished. He had stumbled upon something truly dangerous. The unsettling revelations from old man Mateo, delivered in his gravelly voice amidst the clang of his own forge, left Daniel and Elara with a chilling certainty. João Silva's disappearance was no accident, and Blackwood Manor held the key. Mateo's fragmented memories, his vivid descriptions of João's meticulous nature, and his growing unease in the months before 1983, painted a picture of a man burdened by a terrible secret. He spoke of João's beloved abandoned workshop, a place of silent reverence for the blacksmith, suggesting it might hold more than just forgotten tools. The hammer, with its stark warning, now felt like an urgent directive, a desperate plea from the past demanding their immediate attention. Their initial research into official records had been a dead end, but Mateo's human testimony, steeped in emotion and local history, provided the crucial, personal lead they desperately needed to move forward. Armed with Mateo's precise, if wistful, directions, Daniel and Elara set out towards the outskirts of the town, following a winding, overgrown track that led to João Silva's forgotten workshop. It was a small, stone-built structure, nestled deep within a thicket of ancient oaks, almost swallowed by decades of neglect. Ivy choked its walls, its slate roof sagged precariously, and a rusted, chained door hinted at a long-abandoned life. The air here was heavy, not just with the scent of damp earth, but with a palpable sense of abandonment, a lingering echo of a life violently interrupted. Daniel ran his hand over the cold, rough stone, feeling the weight of the years, the silence of the place amplifying the gravity of their quest. This was more than just a building. It was a mausoleum of memories, a silent testament to a craftsman's lost world, waiting for them to disturb its long slumber. Pushing open the protesting door, Daniel and Elara stepped into a realm frozen in time, the workshop a silent monument to João Silva's vanished presence. A thick layer of dust coated every surface, refracting the sparse sunlight filtering through grimy windows into ethereal shafts. Tools lay scattered on workbenches, some still gleaming faintly, others consumed by rust, as if João had simply walked away mid-project. The air was thick with the ghost of iron, coal, and linseed oil, a scent that spoke of honest labor and fervent creativity. Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of respect for the man whose life had so abruptly ended here, a profound sadness mingling with the growing dread of what they might uncover. Elara, ever the pragmatist, began her methodical scan, her eyes dissecting the space for any anomaly, any misplaced object, any hint of the truth. Their gaze was drawn inexorably to the central forge, the heart of João's world, a massive, soot-stained structure of brick and iron. It dominated the space, a silent sentinel of forgotten fires and powerful blows. As Daniel, with his architect's trained eye, meticulously inspected its worn surface, he noticed a subtle, almost imperceptible irregularity in the brickwork behind it. A slight discoloration, a hairline seam that mirrored the hidden compartment in the gate. It was a master craftsman's trick, designed to blend seamlessly with its surroundings, betraying its secret only to those who knew what to look for, or those with an acute understanding of structural integrity. A shiver ran down his spine. João had hidden something here, something as important as the hammer itself, ensuring it remained concealed even as his life was taken from him. With a shared glance, a silent acknowledgement of the growing tension, Daniel and Elara began to carefully probe the seam. The brickwork was stubborn, cemented by years of dust and neglect, but Daniel's experience with delicate restorations proved invaluable. He worked with a cautious precision, his fingers brushing away layers of grime until, with a soft scraping sound, a section of the wall, expertly disguised, pivoted inward. The hidden compartment was revealed, a narrow, dark recess, much like the one in the gate, perfectly designed for concealment. Nestled inside, protected from the ravages of time, lay a single, leather-bound object, a journal. Daniel's breath hitched. This was it. This was Joao's voice. His personal testimony, finally unearthed after decades of enforced silence, a direct line to the vanished blacksmith's deepest fears and observations. The journal itself was a testament to Joao's meticulous nature, its leather cover worn but intact, the pages filled with dense, almost artistic script. However, several pages at the beginning and end were partially burned, charred fragments clinging precariously to the spine, a brutal attempt at censorship. Many entries were written in a complex, almost artistic code, a series of symbols and cryptic abbreviations that would require careful deciphering. But even in the unburned sections, Daniel could make out Joao's distinctive hand, the bold J and anvil symbol, subtly woven into the intricate flourishes, confirming its authenticity. This wasn't just a diary. It was a carefully constructed testament, a desperate attempt to record what he knew, a silent scream etched into paper, waiting for someone to finally listen to its chilling truths. Ilara, with her extensive experience in historical documents and ciphers, immediately recognized the journal's immense significance, her initial skepticism replaced by a focused intensity. She carefully handled the fragile pages, her eyes scanning the coded entries, her mind already working to unravel its secrets. Even without fully deciphering the code, the legible words, scattered amidst the symbols, spoke volumes. Fragments about strange deliveries, whispers in the night, and a growing sense of being watched. The chilling resonance with the hammer's inscription sent a fresh wave of unease through Daniel. Joao wasn't just an observer. He was a terrified witness, meticulously documenting the dark underbelly of Blackwood Manor, slowly piecing together a truth so dangerous it ultimately cost him his life, leaving behind this fragile, coded legacy. As Ilara continued her initial examination, her finger traced a specific, recurring symbol, followed by a clear, albeit abbreviated, phrase, "the vault." And then, a few entries later, almost too faint to read, the unmistakable word, key. The tiny rusted key from the hammer, so easily overlooked, now pulsed with renewed significance, its purpose dramatically clarified. Joao hadn't just left a warning, he had left a treasure map, a sequence of clues designed to lead the determined to the definitive proof of the conspiracy he had uncovered. But what was in the vault, and where was it located? The journal, while a monumental breakthrough, had only deepened the mystery, confirming their gravest suspicions while leading them to the precipice of an even greater, more dangerous revelation. The journal, a fragile testament to a life violently interrupted, lay open before them, its coded script an intricate barrier to the truth. Ilara Vance, with her historian's precision and journalist's relentless drive, meticulously began the arduous task of deciphering Joao's cryptic entries. Her fingers, nimble and focused, traced the faded ink, her mind racing to unlock the blacksmith's final, desperate message. Each symbol, each abbreviated phrase, was a piece of a puzzle spanning decades, a silent conversation across time. The air in the workshop, once thick with the ghost of iron and coal, now crackled with the electric tension of imminent revelation, the weight of 29 years pressing down, demanding answers. What they found next would change everything. Ilara's initial hours were a frustrating dance with Joao's elaborate cipher, a complex system of personal symbols and linguistic shortcuts designed to protect his observations from prying eyes. But her expertise, honed by years of unraveling historical enigmas, began to yield results. Slowly, painstakingly, the layers peeled back, revealing glimpses into the blacksmith's final days. He had meticulously documented not just his work, but the unsettling patterns he observed at Blackwood Manor. Strange deliveries under the cloak of night, unusual individuals arriving in unmarked vehicles, and the distinct feeling of a presence that watched from the shadows. These were not the musings of a paranoid man. but the precise records of a terrified witness, meticulously sketching the contours of a sinister operation, confirming Daniel's gravest suspicions and igniting a chilling certainty. One entry, dated early 1983, spoke of a particular, quote, consignment, described cryptically as metal containers, too heavy for their size, emitting a faint, sickly sweet odor. Joao, ever the craftsman, had noted the unusual construction and the almost imperceptible hum emanating from within them. He described seeing them unloaded by men in dark uniforms, their faces obscured, under the direct supervision of a figure he only referred to as the broker, a man whose visits to the manor had become increasingly frequent and unsettling. This wasn't merely smuggling. This hinted at something far more insidious, perhaps even hazardous, being secretly transported under the cover of Blackwood Manor's isolated grandeur, transforming the once quaint local legend into a terrifyingly concrete reality, amplifying the stakes of their burgeoning investigation. As more of the code yielded its secrets, a chilling portrait of the Shadow Collective began to emerge, Joao's chilling moniker for the powerful, unseen organization operating within the manor. The journal detailed their ruthless efficiency, their pervasive influence, and the subtle ways they had infiltrated local institutions. Joao wrote of whispers among the constables, of town officials turning a blind eye, and of the palpable fear that silenced anyone who dared to question the manor's activities. He described how the collective systematically isolated the manor from the community, creating a fortress of secrecy, using its remoteness as a perfect shield for operations that spanned far beyond simple illicit trade, hinting at a web of corruption so deeply entrenched it seemed almost insurmountable, a silent, pervasive force that bent the will of the town. The inscription on the hammer, "They watch," now resonated with an unnerving clarity, directly echoing Zhao's frantic journal entries about constant surveillance. He wrote of feeling eyes upon him, even within his own workshop, of unexplained sounds in the night, and of a growing certainty that his meticulous observations had been discovered. The journal became a testament to his sheer courage, documenting these terrifying experiences, even as his life was clearly spiraling into immediate peril. He chronicled his attempts to subtly gather more information, his fear mingling with a desperate need to expose the truth, knowing that each stroke of his pen, each coded word, could be his last. His words painted a vivid, harrowing picture of a man living on the precipice, desperately trying to leave a legacy of truth. Further deciphered pages hinted at the true nature of the Shadow Collective's illicit activities, moving beyond mere smuggling to something far more disturbing and expansive. Joao's entries, though coded, suggested a sophisticated, large-scale operation involving rare earth elements and unregistered biological samples, hinting at resource trafficking or even darker, experimental research being conducted within the manor's hidden depths. He described the specialized equipment being brought in, the unusual energy signatures he sometimes detected, and the almost sterile, clinical atmosphere that pervaded certain parts of the estate, all of which painted a picture of a clandestine laboratory rather than a simple criminal hideout. This wasn't just about money, it was about power, control, and a chilling disregard for human life and ethical boundaries, deepening the horror. Crucially, the journal contained a series of detailed, albeit still partially coded, entries about the vault. Joao hadn't just observed the illicit activities, he had found their nerve center, a hidden repository of their secrets. He meticulously described its location, using architectural clues and blacksmithing terminology, hinting at a concealed space within the manor's foundations, or perhaps a fortified room beneath the old library. He wrote that the small, rusted key, the one Daniel had found hidden in the hammer, was the specific mechanism needed to access it. This wasn't just a record of observations, it was a treasure map, a final, desperate instruction from a man who knew his time was running out, guiding them directly to the definitive proof of the conspiracy, the ultimate truth. The magnitude of Joao's discovery, laid bare in the journal, struck Daniel and Ilara with chilling force. This was no longer just a cold case. It was a live, breathing conspiracy, its tendrils reaching into the highest echelons of power. The Shadow Collective, as Joao had termed them, was not a ghost of the past, but a present, dangerous entity, still active, still protecting its secrets. A profound sense of vulnerability washed over them. They were no longer just researchers. They were targets. As they packed the journal, a faint, almost imperceptible glint caught Daniel's eye in the distance, a reflection from the dense woods surrounding the workshop, a fleeting, ominous sign that perhaps they were indeed still watching, their every move already under scrutiny, the stakes dramatically escalating. Recognizing the immense danger and the depth of the corruption Joao had uncovered, Daniel and Alara knew they couldn't proceed alone. They needed institutional backing, legal protection, and the resources of law enforcement. With a mix of trepidation and grim determination, they approached Detective Isabella Rossi, laying out their improbable story, presenting the hammer, the key, and the partially deciphered journal. Rossi, initially guarded and weary from years of dealing with fringe theories, listened with a professional skepticism that slowly gave way to a focused intensity. The concrete evidence, particularly the forensic details of the hammer and the chilling coherence of Zhao's coded entries, chipped away at her cynicism, revealing a flicker of genuine intrigue, a quiet acknowledgement that something profound was amiss. Detective Rossi, her professional integrity now fully engaged, began a discreet, quiet re-examination of the 1983 police reports concerning Joao Silva's disappearance. What she found was a disturbing pattern of inconsistencies, missing files, and a rushed, almost perfunctory conclusion to the original investigation. Key witness statements had been downplayed or omitted entirely. Forensic evidence from Zhao's workshop had been lost, and the official narrative of a simple vanishing seemed deliberately constructed to obscure rather than illuminate the truth. It became clear that the local police, or at least elements within it, had either been bribed or coerced into covering up Joao's fate, confirming the Shadow Collective's pervasive influence and adding a crucial layer of institutional corruption to the already escalating conspiracy, revealing a deeper, more troubling rot. As Daniel and Alara continued their efforts to fully decipher the journal and pinpoint the vault's location, the subtle signs of surveillance became undeniable. Unmarked vehicles were seen idling near Blackwood Manor, strange phone calls with only static on the line plagued their communications, and their research materials were subtly disturbed, rearranged, or even tampered with. These were no longer fleeting glimpses or paranoid imaginings. These were calculated warnings, direct threats from an unseen enemy. The Shadow Collective was aware. Their investigation, once a quiet pursuit of historical truth, had now fully escalated into a dangerous game of cat and mouse, putting Daniel and Alara squarely in the crosshairs of a ruthless, powerful entity, willing to eliminate any perceived threat to its long-buried secrets, ensuring absolute silence. Detective Rossi's discreet re-examination of the 1983 police reports swiftly uncovered a deeply disturbing pattern, confirming Daniel and Alara's gravest suspicions about a systemic cover-up. She found not merely inconsistencies, but outright fabrications. Key witness statements that mysteriously vanished, forensic evidence from Zhao's workshop deliberately mislabeled or simply lost, and a hurried, almost perfunctory conclusion to the original investigation that defied any logical explanation. The official narrative of a simple vanishing was now exposed as a carefully constructed deception, designed to bury an inconvenient truth. This deliberate act of erasure pointed unequivocally to powerful local elements, perhaps even within the police force itself, who had been bribed or coerced into protecting the Shadow Collective, revealing a pervasive, insidious corruption that had festered for decades, silently poisoning the very institutions meant to uphold justice. The chilling reality of Rossi's findings settled heavily upon Daniel and Alara. It wasn't just Joao Silva who had been silenced. It was the entire investigative process, corrupted from within, ensuring that the truth remained buried beneath layers of bureaucratic lies. Their initial fear now sharpened into a cold, hard resolve. The threat they faced was not merely from a historical ghost, but from a living, breathing entity, with deep, insidious roots in the community, capable of manipulating justice and eliminating anyone who dared to challenge its authority. The journal, with its coded entries, transformed from a historical artifact into an urgent, almost sacred directive. It was the only uncompromised voice from the past, a beacon in the darkness, guiding them through a treacherous landscape of deception and danger, demanding their unwavering commitment to its final, desperate plea. Ilara, fueled by a renewed sense of urgency, finally achieved a significant breakthrough in deciphering Zhao's complex code. Her fingers, stained with ink and grime, traced a series of recurring symbols that, when finally cracked, revealed extensive entries detailing the operations of the Broker, a figure Zhao had identified as a key operative within the Shadow Collective. The journal meticulously chronicled his frequent, secretive visits to Blackwood Manor, his chillingly precise instructions to the men in dark uniforms, and his undeniable authority over the illicit activities. This breakthrough expanded the scope of their investigation far beyond local corruption, hinting at a wider, more sophisticated network of organized crime, perhaps even international in its reach, adding a new, terrifying dimension to the conspiracy, elevating the stakes exponentially. Among the newly deciphered pages, Zhao's entries regarding the metal containers and unregistered biological samples took on a terrifying new clarity. He described specific dates and times of delivery, even noting the unique serial numbers on some of the containers, and the unusual, almost sterile types of vehicles used for transport. His meticulous observations, combined with Ilara's research into historical biological incidents, painted a horrifying picture. The Shadow Collective wasn't merely smuggling illicit goods. They were potentially involved in the trafficking of dangerous biological agents, or conducting unethical experimental research within the secluded confines of Blackwood Manor. This revelation amplified the stakes dramatically, transforming a cold case of a missing person into a matter of national security, a chilling threat far grander and more perilous than they had ever imagined, a dark secret with global implications. As the truth began to unravel, the subtle signs of surveillance escalated into undeniable, overt threats, a chilling confirmation that the Shadow Collective was now fully aware of their progress and intended to silence them. Ilara's research office was ransacked, not violently, but with a deliberate, unsettling precision, files subtly rearranged, a clear message that they had been there. Daniel experienced a harrowing near miss on a deserted road, a black SUV swerving dangerously close, forcing him off the asphalt, leaving him shaken but unharmed. These were no longer fleeting glimpses or paranoid imaginings. They were calculated warnings, direct threats from an unseen enemy. The investigation had fully escalated into a dangerous game of cat and mouse, putting Daniel and Ilara squarely in the crosshairs of a ruthless, powerful entity willing to eliminate any perceived threat to its long-buried secrets, ensuring absolute silence. Now fully invested and deeply disturbed by the extent of the institutional cover-up, Detective Rossi discreetly leveraged her network to investigate Elias Thorne, the polished, seemingly respectable public face of the Shadow Collective. Her investigation uncovered a pattern of unusual financial transactions, including massive, untraceable wire transfers to offshore accounts, and the acquisition of several shell corporations linked to properties near Blackwood Manor, all within the time frame of Zhao's disappearance. These findings, meticulously cross-referenced with Zhao's journal entries, provided irrefutable evidence of Thorne's deep involvement, connecting him directly to the manor's dark past and the illicit activities Zhao had documented. Rossi realized that Thorne was not just a figurehead. He was a central architect of the conspiracy, a spider at the center of a vast, corrupt web, his charisma masking a ruthless, calculating mind. Hearing of the renewed investigation and the escalating threats against Daniel and Ilara, Old Man Mateo, his voice now tinged with a fresh wave of fear and urgency, sought them out once more. He recalled a specific detail Zhao had mentioned in hushed tones, something he'd dismissed as a craftsman's observation at the time, a unique stylized symbol, almost like a family crest, embossed on the metal containers Zhao had witnessed. More chillingly, Mateo remembered Zhao whispering a name, Thorn, with a palpable dread, directly linking the containers and the conspiracy to Elias Thorn's powerful family, the very name that Detective Rossi was now meticulously investigating. This anecdotal testimony, steeped in personal memory, provided the final, crucial piece of the puzzle, solidifying Thorn's central role and confirming the long-standing, generational nature of the Shadow Collective's influence, their dark legacy deeply intertwined with the region's history. The journal's deciphered pages also revealed Zhao's desperate attempts to gather his own irrefutable proof, not just through meticulous written observations, but through more tangible means. He meticulously described installing a rudimentary, custom-built camera, a blacksmith's ingenuity repurposed for espionage, within a hidden crevice in the manor's main hall, specifically targeting the area where the broker and his associates often met. Zhao had referenced specific dates he believed he had captured visual evidence of their illicit dealings, perhaps even faces or documents. This startling revelation suggested that the vault might contain not just ledgers or documents, but photographic or even early video evidence, a direct, visual testament to the conspiracy, an even more damning form of proof that could expose the Shadow Collective beyond any doubt, a silent, unblinking eye in the manor's dark heart. Armed with this new, critical information from the journal, and Mateo, Elara, with Daniel's architectural expertise guiding her, meticulously re-examined the manor's original blueprints and Joao's cryptic architectural notes. She cross-referenced his descriptions of the vault with the small, rusted key and the specific symbols he'd drawn, finally pinpointing its precise location. It wasn't just a safe or a hidden compartment. It was a fortified, almost impenetrable room, concealed deep within the manor's foundations, beneath the old library, accessible only through a cleverly disguised mechanism that required both the unique key and a specific sequence of movements. The vault was designed to be the ultimate repository of their secrets, a fortress within a fortress, waiting for the right person to unlock its chilling contents, a silent testament to Zhao's foresight and desperate hope. The revelation of the vault's exact location brought a profound sense of both triumph and dread. They were on the precipice of uncovering the definitive proof, but the escalating surveillance and direct threats made it terrifyingly clear that accessing it would be a perilous undertaking. The Shadow Collective was watching, waiting, and would not allow their secrets to be exposed without a fight. They knew they were walking into a potential trap, a highly dangerous confrontation with a ruthless enemy. Daniel, Elara, and now, cautiously, Detective Rossi, understood that a frontal assault was impossible. They needed a meticulously crafted strategy, a plan to outwit their powerful adversaries, to infiltrate the manor, secure the evidence, and escape with their lives, all while under the watchful, malevolent gaze of Elias Thorn and his agents. A silent, deadly chess match. The weight of the small, rusted key in Daniel's palm felt heavier than ever, a tangible link to Joao's desperate hope, now intertwined with their own perilous fate. The vault, a silent mausoleum of secrets, lay beneath Blackwood Manor, waiting to yield its truths. But as they finalized their plan, a chilling thought permeated the air. What deadly surprise awaited them inside that fortified chamber? A final, desperate defense laid by the Shadow Collective. And even if they succeeded in acquiring the evidence, how would they escape the manor's ancient walls, now a virtual prison, knowing that every shadow, every window, every creak of the old house could conceal the watchful, unforgiving eyes of their powerful adversaries, ready to ensure that Zhao Silva's secret remained buried forever. The night swallowed Blackwood Manor Hall, an oppressive blanket of shadows broken only by a sliver of moon struggling through dense cloud cover, casting eerie, shifting patterns across the ancient stones. Daniel, Elara, and Detective Rossi moved like ghosts through the overgrown grounds, their breaths misting in the frigid autumn air, each rustle of dry leaves underfoot a jarring echo in the suffocating silence. The metallic tang of rust from the colossal gate, now a familiar scent, mingled with the damp earth, a primal smell of decay that seemed to cling to their clothes, seeping into their very bones. Daniel felt a knot of ice in his stomach, the weight of Joao's hammer, now secured to his belt, a constant, chilling reminder of the danger they were courting, a silent pact with the vanished blacksmith, whose desperate plea had led them to this perilous moment. Every shadow seemed to writhe, every distant creak of the old house a potential watcher, a silent sentinel for their powerful, unseen adversaries. They bypassed the main entrance, opting for a less obvious, partially boarded-up service door Daniel had noted during his initial architectural survey, a forgotten portal that offered a sliver of hope. The interior of the manor was a cavern of stale air and decaying grandeur, the once opulent furnishings shrouded in ghostly white sheets, their forms distorted and menacing in the faint glow of Daniel's tactical flashlight. Dust motes danced in the sparse beams, swirling like tormented spirits, a silent testament to decades of neglect and hidden secrets. The library, their target, lay at the heart of this decaying labyrinth, its massive, unlit doorway looming like the maw of some ancient beast. Its shelves, filled with forgotten tomes, seemed to watch them, silent judges of their audacious intrusion, the weight of untold stories pressing down from every shadow-drenched corner, amplifying the suffocating tension that now permeated the very air. Guided by Joao's coded journal entries and Daniel's expert understanding of structural anomalies, they approached a specific section of the library wall, concealed behind a towering, built-in bookshelf laden with heavy, leather-bound volumes. Daniel's gloved fingers meticulously traced the cold, aged wood, searching for the subtle seam, the almost imperceptible deviation in grain that Joao had so meticulously described. The air grew thick with anticipation, each second stretching into an eternity, the only sound the faint, rasping whisper of their own breathing. He pressed, he prodded, applying precise pressure, remembering Joao's notes on counterweights and disguised pivots. Finally, with a soft, almost inaudible click that resonated disproportionately loud in the profound silence, a section of the bookshelf, heavy with its literary burden, slowly began to retract, revealing a narrow, darkened passage behind it, a secret door to a forbidden truth. The passage was a short, claustrophobic tunnel of rough-hewn stone, smelling faintly of damp earth and disuse, leading them deeper into the manor's ancient foundations. At its end stood a formidable, iron-clad door, its surface scarred by time, its edges sealed by thick, rusted bolts. This was it, the vault, as Zhao had termed it in his journal, the ultimate repository of the Shadow Collective's secrets. Daniel pulled the tiny, rusted key from his pocket, its intricate design a perfect match for the ancient, heavy-duty lock. His hands, usually so steady, trembled slightly as he inserted the key, the metallic scrape echoing in the confined space. He turned it slowly, feeling the resistance. Then, a satisfying, heavy dunk as the tumblers disengaged. With a shared glance, a silent acknowledgement of the terrifying precipice they stood upon, they pushed the massive door inward, revealing the yawning darkness beyond. A wave of cold, stagnant air, thick with the scent of old paper, dust, and a faint, acrid chemical tang, washed over them as they stepped inside. The vault was a surprisingly spacious, meticulously organized chamber, clearly designed for long-term storage and absolute secrecy. Rows of metal filing cabinets, their surfaces gleaming dully in Daniel's flashlight beam, lined the walls, alongside several heavy wooden crates stacked precisely in the center. The silence within was profound, almost suffocating, amplifying the relentless thumping of Daniel's heart against his ribs. This wasn't merely a storage room. It was a tomb of forgotten truths, a chilling monument to the Shadow Collective's decades of illicit operations, a place where time itself seemed to have paused, waiting for their intrusion to shatter its oppressive stillness. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, every surface a silent testament to a hidden world. Ilara, ever the professional, moved with focused intensity, her flashlight beam cutting through the gloom, illuminating the contents. The first filing cabinet she opened revealed meticulously organized ledgers, their pages filled with precise, chillingly detailed records of illicit financial transactions dating back to the early 1980s. Each entry was a stark testament to corruption, detailing vast sums of money transferred, shadowy figures identified only by code names, and complex networks of shell corporations. Next, she uncovered a series of high-resolution photographs, some grainy with age, depicting figures in dark uniforms unloading the very metal containers V was described. Their faces partially obscured, but the unmistakable silhouette of Elias Thorne clear in several frames, confirming his central role in the decades-old conspiracy, a visceral punch to their collective gut. Alara's breath hitched, her voice a low, urgent whisper as she processed the sheer volume and damning nature of the evidence. "This is it," she breathed, her eyes wide with a mixture of triumph and horror. "This isn't just a ledger, it's a blueprint for a criminal empire. These transactions, these photographs, they implicate Thorne directly, and not just in smuggling. Look at these dates, the references to Project Chimera and biological samples. João wasn't paranoid. He was a prophet. The scale of the conspiracy, now laid bare before them, dwarfed their initial imaginings, revealing a network of corruption and illicit activity that reached far beyond Blackwood Manor, threatening to unravel the very fabric of local power, a chilling testament to João's bravery and the ruthless efficiency of his adversaries. As Daniel sifted through a pile of documents, a small, antiquated reel-to-reel tape recorder caught his eye, nestled beneath a stack of dusty maps. He recognized it from Zhao's journal, a rudimentary device the blacksmith had built himself. With trembling fingers, he pressed play. The crackle of static filled the vault. Then João Silva's voice, faint but clear, emerged from the past, his tone strained with fear, yet resolute. "They know I've been watching," Zhao whispered, his voice laced with terror. "The containers, they're not just metal. I saw what was inside. Something not human. Thorne is behind it all. He's bringing them here. They watch. They're coming for me. If you find this, tell them the truth. Tell them what happened at Blackwood Manor." The recording ended abruptly with a muffled thud, a chilling, final testament to his violent end. Just as Zhao's voice faded into static, a distinct metallic Talos-C click echoed from the vault door they had left ajar. The sound was sharp, deliberate, cutting through the suffocating silence like a knife. Daniel, Alara, and Rossi froze, their hearts leaping into their throats. The air, already thick with tension, suddenly grew impossibly heavy, charged with an undeniable sense of immediate peril. A sliver of light, not from their flashlights, pierced the darkness, followed by the unmistakable creak of the heavy iron door, slowly, menacingly, closing. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, began to approach from the passage, not the cautious tread of an ally, but the confident, predatory rhythm of an enemy, who knew they were trapped, their every move anticipated, their deepest fears realized in that single, horrifying moment. 3 figures, clad in dark, tactical gear, emerged from the now sealed passage, their faces obscured by balaclavas, their movements efficient and silent. Each held a silenced weapon, their laser sights painting chilling red dots across Daniel, Ilera, and Rossi's chests. They were Thorne's agents, silent enforcers of the Shadow Collective, their presence a stark, brutal confirmation that their every move had been anticipated, every step tracked. The air crackled with unspoken threats, the chilling reality of their predicament slamming into them with visceral force. This was no longer a quiet investigation. It was a deadly confrontation, a desperate fight for survival against a ruthless, well-organized force determined to protect their secrets at any cost. The metallic scent of the vault, once merely dusty, now seemed to carry the faint, terrifying tang of impending violence. Then, from behind his agents, a 4th figure stepped into the vault's dim light, Elias Thorne himself. He wasn't wearing tactical gear. Instead, he was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his silver hair neatly combed, his expression one of calm, chilling amusement. A faint, almost imperceptible smile played on his lips, a predatory gleam in his eyes that spoke of absolute control and ruthless power. "Well, well," he purred, his voice a low, silken whisper that belied the immense danger he represented. "It seems you've found Jean's little treasure trove. A shame. All that effort, only to stumble into a trap he tried so desperately to warn you about." His presence filled the room, radiating an aura of cold, calculating menace, a silent declaration that their time and their lives were now entirely in his hands. A desperate surge of adrenaline coursed through Daniel's veins. He instinctively clutched the ledger, a silent defiance against Thorne's chilling calm. Ilara, quick thinking, attempted to discreetly activate a hidden distress beacon she carried. But Thorne's agents were too fast, too efficient. Before she could complete the action, a gloved hand slammed down, crushing the device. Just as one agent moved to disarm Daniel, Detective Rossi, displaying a flash of seasoned resilience, lunged forward, tackling the closest assailant, sending both crashing into a stack of filing cabinets with a deafening clang that echoed through the vault. The unexpected chaos momentarily broke the agents' synchronized precision, creating a fleeting, desperate window of opportunity, a moment of raw, visceral struggle for survival against overwhelming odds. Amidst the sudden, brutal melee as Rossi grappled fiercely with one agent and Daniel fended off another, Ilara, with a surge of desperate courage, seized the moment. Her eyes darted to the small, antiquated tape recorder still playing Joao's final, chilling words. With a swift, decisive move, she grabbed the device and, with a powerful, desperate throw, hurled it towards the now ajar vault door, aiming for the narrow gap that led back to the passage. The recorder spun through the air, a fragile vessel of truth, carrying Zhao's voice, his desperate plea, and the damning evidence of Thorne's conspiracy. Thorne's eyes widened in a rare flash of alarm. Would it make it out? Would Zhao's final testimony finally escape the clutches of the Shadow Collective, or would it, like him, be forever silenced within Blackwood Manor's dark embrace? The fate of the truth hung precariously in the balance. The small, antiquated tape recorder, a fragile vessel of truth, spun through the air in a desperate arc, a silent prayer launched into the suffocating darkness of the passage. It landed with a soft thud on the cold stone floor just beyond the vault's heavily sealed door, its tiny, glowing REC light flickering defiantly in the profound gloom. Thorne's eyes, usually so composed, widened in a rare flash of pure, unadulterated fury, a primal scream trapped behind his perfectly tailored facade. His agents, momentarily distracted by the unexpected projectile, hesitated, their laser sights wavering, giving Daniel, Ilara, and Rossi a fleeting, desperate sliver of opportunity. The stakes had never been higher, the air crackling with the electric tension of a moment that would define their survival, a desperate gamble against overwhelming odds, a silent acknowledgement of the immense power they faced. Detective Rossi, despite the pain from her struggle, seized the precious instant of distraction. With a guttural cry, she delivered a devastating blow to the agent she was grappling with, using his own momentum against him, sending him sprawling into the metal filing cabinets with a deafening clang that reverberated through the vault. The unexpected chaos created a crucial, albeit brief, opening. "Go! Get out, Daniel!" Ilara screamed, her voice raw with urgency, pushing Daniel towards the now ajar vault door. He clutched the incriminating ledger, its pages filled with Thorne's dark secrets, a physical manifestation of the truth they had risked everything for. The agents, momentarily disoriented by Rossi's ferocity, were slow to react, their synchronized precision momentarily shattered by the raw, visceral will to survive. A desperate fight for freedom against a ruthless, well-organized force. Daniel, his heart hammering against his ribs, didn't hesitate. He burst through the vault door, the heavy ledger tucked under his arm, his architectural knowledge of the manor's labyrinthine layout screaming for him to find the quickest, most obscure exit. The sounds of pursuit, the thud of heavy boots, echoed behind him, a chilling symphony of impending capture. He heard Ilara's desperate cry as she was overwhelmed by the remaining agents, a sound that tore at his soul, fueling his frantic sprint through the decaying mansion. He was no longer just an architect. He was a courier of truth, a desperate runner carrying the weight of a vanished man's legacy, the chilling silence of the manor amplifying his every panicked breath, the cold air stinging his lungs, a desperate race against time. Back in the vault, Ilara, outnumbered and outmaneuvered, was quickly subdued. Thorn, his composure now fully restored, surveyed the scene with a cold, predatory satisfaction, his eyes lingering on the disarmed and restrained Ilara. "A valiant effort, Dr. Vance," he purred, his voice a silken whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "But ultimately futile. The ledger will be recovered, and your little recording device, well, it will simply vanish, just like our dear Joao." He gestured to his agents, who moved with practiced efficiency to secure the remaining evidence, their movements precise, their faces devoid of emotion, like dark automatons. The grim reality of their entrapment settled upon Ilara, a suffocating realization that they had walked into a meticulously laid trap, a consequence of their audacity. Meanwhile, Daniel, fueled by a potent cocktail of fear and grim determination, navigated the manor's shadowed corridors. He sprinted through forgotten service passages, down creaking back staircases, and finally burst through a rear kitchen door, emerging into the biting autumn night. The cold air was a shock, a sudden, bracing reality check after the suffocating tension of the manor. He didn't stop, pushing his aching legs, the heavy ledger a constant, tangible reminder of his mission. He knew Ilara and Rossi were still inside, but the ledger, the definitive proof, had to get out. His mind raced, calculating, planning, knowing that the fight was far from over, but that the first, most crucial piece of evidence was now beyond Thorn's immediate reach, a small victory in a much larger war. Hours later, as dawn painted the horizon with streaks of muted orange and gray, a groundskeeper, making his early rounds near Blackwood Manor, stumbled upon a small, mud-splattered device lying on the gravel path. It was the tape recorder. Curiosity piqued, he pressed play. The crackle of static gave way to João Silva's strained, terrified voice, his words echoing across 29 years. "They know I've been watching. The containers. Something not human. Thorn is behind it all. They're coming for me. Tell them the truth. Tell them what happened at Blackwood Manor." The chilling message, broadcast on an old, forgotten device, was immediately reported to the local authorities. A desperate cry from the grave finally heard, shattering the long-held silence surrounding the manor's dark secrets, igniting a rapid, urgent response that would change everything. The arrival of a full police contingent, spurred by the chilling recording and Daniel's desperate call from a payphone at a gas station miles away, shattered the pre-dawn stillness of Blackwood Manor. Sirens wailed, flashing lights painted the ancient stones in stark, pulsating red and blue. Thorn's remaining agents, caught off guard by the unexpected, overwhelming force, were quickly apprehended. Inside the vault, Detective Rossi, battered but unbowed, her face streaked with grime and blood, was found holding her own, having sustained injuries but managed to disable another agent. Ilara, shaken but physically unharmed, was quickly freed. The evidence from the vault, the ledgers, the photographs, the biological samples, was meticulously secured, the chain of custody carefully established, finally bringing the full weight of the law down upon the Shadow Collective, a long-overdue reckoning. Elias Thorn, his impeccably tailored suit now disheveled, his silver hair askew, watched with a cold, unyielding fury as the vault's contents were carefully catalogued and removed. His predatory smile was gone, replaced by a mask of chilling disdain. He offered no resistance, only a silent, defiant glare, a man whose empire was crumbling but whose resolve remained unbroken. Ilara, her voice trembling slightly but clear, recounted their ordeal, her testimony supported by Rossi's professional assessment and Daniel's detailed account. The vault itself, once a fortress of secrets, was now a meticulously documented crime scene, its every shadow illuminated by the harsh glare of police floodlights, its contents spilling forth a torrent of evidence that would bring down a powerful, insidious network. exposing decades of hidden transgressions. The ledgers, meticulously cross-referenced with the recovered photographs, and Joao's deciphered journal entries, exposed Elias Thorne and the Shadow Collective as architects of a sophisticated, long-standing criminal enterprise. Project Chimera was revealed to be a horrifying, decades-long biological experimentation and trafficking operation, utilizing Blackwood Manor's isolation for illicit research and the covert transport of dangerous biological agents. The detailed financial records also implicated a network of local officials, including the former police chief from 1983, who had been systematically bribed and coerced into facilitating the cover-up of João Silva's disappearance and the collective's other nefarious activities. João's chilling warning, "They watch," was not paranoia. It was a desperate, prophetic truth, a testament to his courage and foresight. The full, tragic truth of João Silva's disappearance was finally brought to light. He had not merely vanished, he had been silenced. His journal entries, combined with the vault's evidence, confirmed that João and his meticulous observations had seen the metal containers, and more horrifyingly glimpsed their not-human contents, the dangerous biological samples. Realizing the immense peril he was in, and the true, sinister nature of Thorne's operations, he had meticulously hidden his hammer, his journal, and the key, his final, desperate act to ensure the truth would eventually surface. His body, as Detective Rossi's reinvestigation quickly confirmed, had likely been disposed of in a remote, inaccessible location, a brutal, efficient act facilitated by the corrupt local elements that had protected the Shadow Collective for so long, ensuring his silence. In the aftermath, Elias Thorne, stripped of his power and his carefully constructed facade of respectability, was arrested and charged with a litany of crimes: murder, conspiracy to traffic dangerous biological agents, systemic corruption, and obstruction of justice. The Shadow Collective, its intricate network exposed by the vault's contents and the subsequent investigations, was systematically dismantled, its operatives apprehended, its vast illicit assets seized. The local officials implicated in the 1983 cover-up, their complicity now undeniable, faced their own reckoning, leading to a long overdue cleansing of the corruption that had festered within the community for decades. Blackwood Manor, once a symbol of hidden darkness, was now a meticulously documented crime scene, its ancient stones finally bearing witness to the justice it had silently awaited. The community, once gripped by hushed whispers and unspoken fears, reeled from the shocking revelations. There was a profound mix of anger at the deception, sorrow for João Silva, and a deep, collective relief that the truth had finally emerged. João, the quiet blacksmith, was posthumously honored, his bravery in documenting the conspiracy celebrated, his story finally told after 29 years of enforced silence. Daniel, Ilara, and Detective Rossi, though forever changed by their perilous journey into the manor's dark heart, emerged as unlikely heroes, their perseverance and courage bringing light to a decades-old injustice, reminding everyone of the immense cost of silence and the enduring power of truth, a raw, emotional reckoning that echoed through the small town. Daniel Hayes, the pragmatic architect who had arrived viewing Blackwood Manor as merely a financial burden, was irrevocably transformed. He no longer saw the estate as a property to be liquidated, but as a monument to João Silva's sacrifice and a stark reminder of the vigilance required to protect truth. He decided to remain, to restore Blackwood Manor not for profit, but as a symbol of transparency, a memorial to the silenced, ensuring its dark history would never again be buried. The colossal iron gate, now fully restored, its intricate scrollwork gleaming, stood as a testament to João's artistry and his desperate, enduring hope, a silent, imposing sentinel guarding against the shadows, a beacon of vigilance, reminding all who passed of the enduring power of a single hidden truth. Daniel Hayes, the pragmatic architect who had arrived viewing Blackwood Manor as merely a financial burden, was irrevocably transformed by the harrowing journey into its dark heart. He no longer saw the sprawling estate as a property to be liquidated, a mere transaction on a ledger, but as a solemn monument to João Silva's sacrifice, and a stark, enduring reminder of the constant vigilance required to protect truth from the insidious clutches of those who would bury it. His hands, once calloused by blueprints and structural analyses, now bore the invisible scars of a battle fought against corruption and deceit, a quiet testament to his unwavering commitment. The weight of the hammer, once a chilling burden, had become a symbol of his newfound purpose, a tangible link to the past, guiding his future. He understood now that some legacies were not measured in monetary value, but in the profound, immeasurable cost of human lives and silenced truths, forever altering his perception of purpose and inheritance. The colossal iron gate, once a rusted sentinel guarding decades of untold stories, now stood fully restored, its intricate scrollwork gleaming under the sun, a testament not only to Joao's artistry, but to the enduring power of revealed truth. It was no longer a symbol of forgotten secrets, but a beacon of remembrance, a silent promise that the quiet blacksmith's desperate plea had been heard and answered. The community, slowly healing from the raw wounds of betrayal and decades of unspoken fear, looked upon the manor with new eyes, no longer as a place of dread, but as a stark, powerful reminder of the hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface of their seemingly peaceful lives. João Silva's name, once a whispered legend of a vanished man, was now spoken with reverence, his courage celebrated, his sacrifice etched into the very fabric of their collective memory, a hero finally recognized. The dismantling of the Shadow Collective, a network whose tendrils had woven deep into the region's institutions, sent ripples far beyond the quiet town. It served as a chilling global warning, a stark example of how easily power and wealth could corrupt, how insidiously secrets could fester for decades, poisoning the very foundations of justice and trust. The horrifying revelations of Project Chimera, the dangerous biological experiments, underscored the profound, terrifying disregard for human life and ethical boundaries that such clandestine organizations harbored. The world watched, aghast, as the layers of deception were peeled back, revealing a ruthless, calculating entity willing to sacrifice anything and anyone to protect its dark agenda. This wasn't just a local victory, it was a testament to the fact that even the most deeply entrenched conspiracies could be brought to light, though often at an immense, heartbreaking cost. The story of Blackwood Manor became a powerful narrative, a poignant reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, a single act of defiance, a desperate message left behind, could ignite a chain reaction leading to justice. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the unyielding drive to uncover truth, and the profound impact one individual's courage could have, even from beyond the grave. Daniel, Elara, and Detective Rossi, three disparate individuals brought together by fate and a shared moral imperative, had proved that silence, however pervasive, could be broken, and that the shadows, however deep, could be illuminated. Their perilous journey, marked by danger and discovery, echoed Joao's own bravery, transforming a cold case into a vibrant, living testament to the unwavering pursuit of righteousness, a beacon of hope for other silenced voices. Daniel, forever changed by the blacksmith's silent plea, chose to remain at Blackwood Manor. His initial plan to liquidate the estate was abandoned, replaced by a new, more profound purpose, to restore it not for personal gain, but as a living memorial. He envisioned it as a center for historical preservation, a place where the lessons of the past would be honored, and where the stories of the voiceless, like João Silva, would never again be forgotten or buried. The manor, once a symbol of hidden darkness and malevolent power, would now stand as a beacon of transparency, its ancient stones imbued with a new meaning, a silent promise to guard against the shadows that had once consumed it. His commitment was unwavering, a personal vow to ensure Joao's sacrifice was not in vain, transforming the burden into a sacred trust. The colossal iron gate, the very object that had triggered the entire, harrowing investigation, now stood as a potent symbol of this transformation. Its intricate scrollwork, once caked in decades of rust, now gleamed with renewed life, each curve and finial a testament to Joao's enduring artistry and Daniel's meticulous dedication. It was no longer merely a barrier, it was a threshold, a silent sentinel guarding against the insidious forces that had once sought to silence truth. As visitors passed through its grand archway, they were reminded not just of the manor's dark past, but of the courage required to confront it, and the hope that justice, however long delayed, could ultimately prevail. The gate whispered tales of a blacksmith's bravery, a warning to all that some secrets, no matter how deeply buried, would inevitably find their way to the light. Yet, even with the Shadow Collective dismantled, and Elias Thorne behind bars, a chilling question lingered in the crisp autumn air around Blackwood Manor. Was this truly the end, or was this just one head of a hydra, a single manifestation of a pervasive darkness that lay hidden in countless other corners of the world, quietly operating, patiently watching, waiting for its next opportunity to resurface? The chilling words, "they watch," resonated still, a stark reminder that vigilance was not a temporary state, but a perpetual necessity. Daniel understood that the victory at Blackwood Manor was significant, but the fight against such insidious forces was an ongoing one, a relentless battle against those who would twist power and wealth to their own nefarious ends, ensuring that the shadows, though temporarily dispelled, would always seek to return. João Silva, the quiet blacksmith, had paid the ultimate price for his integrity, his life violently taken for daring to observe, to document, to seek truth. His sacrifice, however, was not in vain. It echoed through the decades, a silent scream etched into iron and paper, finally heard and acted upon. His story became a poignant testament to the human cost of corruption, a stark warning of the dangers of complacency, and a powerful inspiration for those who believed that justice, however elusive, was always worth fighting for. Daniel, Ilara, and Rossi carried his memory forward, their lives forever intertwined with the blacksmith's tragic fate, their actions ensuring that João's legacy was not one of silent disappearance, but of enduring courage and a triumph of truth over the deepest, most pervasive darkness. And so, the story of Blackwood Manor, once a forgotten tragedy, now stands as a powerful epic of justice, vigilance, and the indomitable spirit of those who refuse to let secrets remain buried. But as the sun sets over the beautifully restored gate, casting long shadows across the ancient stones, one can't help but wonder, what other silent pleas, what other cryptic warnings lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for a curious hand to uncover them? Are we, as a society, truly prepared to listen, to confront the darkness, or will we allow other shadow collectives to continue their silent work, unchallenged, until another João Silva vanishes without a trace? The truth, once unearthed, demands eternal vigilance.